Picture this scenario for a second because I really think it taps into this deeply universal feeling for anyone who travels. So you have just stepped off a grueling 10-hour flight.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah.
Just totally exhausted.
Right, completely drained. You've navigated customs, you retrieved your luggage, and now you're standing on the curb outside an airport in a city you have never been to before.
And the air smells different. The signs are in a language you maybe only vaguely recognize.
Exactly. And you get that, that sudden sharp spike of anxiety creeping up the back of your neck. Because, the airport itself was this highly structured, artificially engineered environment, right? It was designed to basically do the thinking for you.
Yeah, it's all arrows and pictures, but the curb is just, it's unscripted chaos.
Unscripted chaos, perfectly said. You're waiting for a taxi or an Uber, and the primary thought looping in your tired brain is whether you actually possess the linguistic tools to communicate where you need to go, or, if you are about to end up hopelessly lost in a completely foreign environment.
Yeah, that transition from the terminal to the street, it's brutal on the brain. You are basically stepping off a cognitive cliff.
A cognitive cliff. I like that.
Well, inside the airport, everything relies on universal iconography, right? Pictures of airplanes, arrows pointing to baggage claim. But the moment you hit the pavement, you plunge directly into the unpredictable flow of the real world.
And that requires active, dynamic communication.
Exactly. It is a moment of profound vulnerability for any traveler.
And that vulnerability is exactly what we are focusing our deep dive on today. We're looking at a source that tackles that exact feeling head on. It's a very specific, practical conversational guide designed to help travelers navigate English interactions in a taxi or an Uber.
Which, on the surface, a taxi ride sounds like the most mundane topic imaginable.
Right, like, who cares? We all know how to get in a car, but we are not going to just walk through this guide like a simple vocabulary checklist. We're going to look at the underlying psychology of this interaction.
Because when you really dissect it, a taxi ride is this intense, high-stakes negotiation of power, vulnerability, and comfort in an enclosed space with a complete stranger.
It really is. And the sociology of that interaction is just fascinating.
It is. And the core philosophy our source material anchors itself to, the thing they explicitly emphasize right out of the gate, is the idea that, quote, simple English is completely okay.
I love that reassurance. Simple English is okay.
Yeah, because the goal in these transient interactions isn't to deliver some flawless, grammatically complex monologue. The goal is clear, mutual understanding under pressure.
Right, under pressure being the key phrase. So I want to start by looking at the brain science of that very first encounter on the street, because every journey begins with verifying you are getting into the right car.
Right, the pickup.
Yeah, so our source walks through a scenario where a car pulls up, the window rolls down, and the driver asks, "Hi, are you Lena?" And the guide suggests the passenger respond with a simple, "Yes, that's me."
Which sounds incredibly basic.
It does. And honestly, my instinct, especially when I'm nervous in a foreign country, is to overcomplicate things. Like, I feel like just saying, "Yes, that's me," sounds too blunt, or maybe even rude.
You feel like you need to preview speak the language.
Yes. I want to construct this full, polite sentence like, "Yes, I am the passenger who requested this vehicle." Why do our brains compel us to sound like, I don't know, legal documents when we are stressed?
Well, the mechanism there is rooted in how anxiety interacts with our cognitive load. In linguistic psychology, there's this concept called the affective filter.
The affective filter. Okay, what does that do?
Basically, when your adrenaline spikes, which it naturally does when you're standing on a noisy, unfamiliar street corner, your brain's language processing centers become overwhelmed. Your working memory actually shrinks.
Oh, wow. So you literally have less brain power to work with.
Exactly. But simultaneously, your ego is trying to protect you. We mistakenly believe that using complex formal grammar will somehow mask our vulnerability, prove our competence, and show the driver that we belong there.
So we overcompensate because we feel totally out of our element.
Spot on. We try to do too much when we should be doing less.
It feels less like a natural conversation and more like a digital handshake between two servers. You know, you are just sending a low bandwidth ping to establish a secure connection before any real data is transferred.
That digital handshake metaphor is perfect, actually.
Yeah, because you don't need a philosophical debate right there on the curb. You just need to confirm you aren't getting kidnapped.
Yeah, exactly. In a high-stress, high-noise environment, clarity is the ultimate form of politeness. Over-explaining actually causes friction.
Because the driver is distracted too, right?
Exactly. The driver's managing traffic, they're scanning for hazards, trying to clear the loading zone. They aren't judging your mastery of English verb tenses. They are looking for a binary confirmation.
Match the name to the face.
Yes. Match the name to the face and get the passenger safely out of the street. Yes, that's me. Achieves that instantly. It establishes a baseline of trust and safety without requiring you to juggle complex grammar while jet-lagged.
Okay, so we establish the connection, we get in, and the door clicks shut. Now you are safely in the back seat. But, and I know you know this feeling, the psychological tension doesn't just evaporate.
Oh, definitely not. You're just in a new phase of it.
Right. You can't truly sink back into that seat and relax until the logistics are settled. The driver asks, "Where would you like to go?" Now, the standard response the guide provides is, "Please take me to the airport." But they also highlight this alternative phrase, "Can you take me to this address?" while pointing at a smartphone.
A very common tactic.
It is, but I have to admit, I've always felt a twinge of guilt doing this. It feels like a cop-out. Like I am failing at traveling because I'm not even attempting to pronounce the local street name.
You know, we really need to reframe that guilt. Because from a communication standpoint, pointing to a screen while asking, "Can you take me to this address?" is actually a highly sophisticated strategy.
Wait, really? How so?
It's a perfect example of multimodal communication.
Multimodal communication, meaning using multiple modes at once.
Exactly. You are pairing a polite verbal request with a definitive visual aid, which completely removes the margin for error.
Well, I suppose a mispronounced street name isn't just embarrassing. I mean, it can be an incredibly expensive, stressful mistake if you end up on the completely wrong side of town.
Precisely. And the brain's auditory processing for foreign phonemes, the unique sounds of a new language, is notoriously unreliable when you are exhausted.
Oh, totally. Everything just sounds like mush.
Right. So by utilizing multimodal communication, you are offloading the cognitive burden from your working memory directly onto a device. You are prioritizing the success of the mission over your linguistic pride, which is exactly what a savvy traveler should do.
That makes me feel a lot better about shoving my Google Maps in a driver's face.
As long as you say, "Can you take me to this address, please?" it's perfectly fine.
Okay, so the source also tackles the timeline of the journey. It suggests asking questions like, how long will it take? Or is there much traffic? Now, obviously, you want to know if you're going to miss your flight, but I feel like there is something deeper going on here regarding the power dynamics of the car itself.
There absolutely is.
Because when you get into the back of a taxi, you are entirely surrendering your mobility. You are enclosed in someone else's space, moving at a speed you don't control, toward a destination you can't see. It is an inherently passive position. You are essentially just cargo.
Yeah, you are. And the psychology of enclosed, moving spaces, which sociologists often refer to as liminal spaces, is deeply unsettling for the human brain precisely because of that loss of agency.
Liminal space, like an in-between place where you have no control.
Right. And spatial anxiety translates very quickly into generalized anxiety. So when you ask, "How long will it take?" you are doing much more than gathering logistical data. You are actively shifting your role in the dynamic.
You are asserting that you are a participant, not just a package being delivered.
Yes, you are transitioning from passive endurance to active monitoring. Psychological studies on travel and anxiety consistently show that perceived control is a massive mitigator of stress.
Even if you can't actually change anything.
Exactly. Even if you cannot make the car move any faster, simply knowing that the journey will take, say, about 20 minutes, gives you a mental boundary. You reclaim a sense of agency over your schedule. The unknown void becomes a quantifiable block of time.
And the brain immediately downregulates its stress response. That makes total sense.
It's all about framing the unknown.
So the destination is locked in, the timeline is quantified, and we enter the middle phase of the journey. And I think this is where the dynamic gets really complicated because a taxi is a bizarre sociological environment.
It really is weird space.
Right. It is the driver's private property, or at least their workplace, but you are temporarily renting it. It is this weird hybrid of private and public space. And navigating that requires managing a temporary social contract.
And that usually starts with small talk.
Exactly. Our guide tackles this first with a classic small talk exchange. The driver asks, "Where are you from?" The passenger replies, "I'm from Pakistan." The driver follows up with, "Is this your first time here?" And the passenger just says, "Yes, it is." What strikes me here is that the driver is almost always the one initiating this exchange.
Sociologists who study these kinds of transient interactions note that the person who owns the territory sets the social tone.
Ah, so the driver is the host.
The driver is the host, yes, and you are the guest in their rolling office. So when the driver initiates small talk, they are basically offering a low-stakes social ping pong to test the waters. And the source guide brilliantly demonstrates that the passenger's role isn't to craft a long, complex narrative.
Which is a huge relief because I do not want to recount my entire life story while trying to figure out the currency exchange rate in my head.
No, and you don't have to. The passenger's job is simply to return the volley with short, friendly facts.
Just, I'm from Pakistan, or yes, it is.
Exactly. It acknowledges the social bid without overcommitting your cognitive resources. It signals that you are friendly and cooperative, which just lubricates the entire interaction.
It's like the Goldilocks level of effort. Just right.
Yeah.
But, the middle of the ride isn't just about friendly banter. The source also covers how to alter the physical environment.
This is a huge hurdle for a lot of people.
Right. They teach phrases like, can you lower the music, please? Or, can you turn on the AC, please? And I'll be honest, I have sat in the back of cabs in sweltering heat, sweating in absolute silence, completely miserable, simply because I didn't want to rock the boat or use the wrong words.
You're definitely not alone in that.
There is just a massive linguistic barrier to self-advocacy when you are in someone else's space.
Oh, suffering in silence is incredibly common among travelers. We have this internal politeness threshold that we are terrified of crossing, especially in a second language where we don't naturally grasp the subtle nuances of tone.
Yeah, because we worry that asking for a change in temperature will sound like a harsh demand.
Or an insult to the driver's hospitality, right?
Right. I always fear that if I ask to turn down the music, I'm going to sound like a dictator barking orders from the back seat. So how does the phrasing in our source guide bypass that risk?
Well, the guide relies on a very specific modal verb structure. It uses can you, please, like can you lower the music, please? And this structure is basically linguistic magic in English.
Linguistic magic. Because it softens it.
It operates as a softening agent, yes. Think about it. If you just say lower the music, it is an imperative. It's a command.
Which threatens the driver's authority over their space.
Exactly. But can you, please, frames the request as an inquiry into their ability and willingness to help.
Oh, I see. It turns a demand into a collaborative effort.
Right. It implies a cooperative relationship rather than a hierarchical one. By equipping travelers with this exact phrasing, the guide isn't just teaching vocabulary, it is literally granting permission to be comfortable.
I love that. Permission to be comfortable.
It breaks down that barrier to self-advocacy by providing a tool that is unequivocally direct about what you need, but wrapped in a socially protective layer of politeness.
It's empowering. You aren't just enduring the ride anymore, you are negotiating your comfort within it. And speaking of negotiating the journey, the guide also includes the phrase, "Can we stop here for a minute?" Now that is the ultimate form of self-advocacy. You are literally altering the physical trajectory of the vehicle.
And notice the pronoun shift there too.
Oh, right. It's not "can you stop?"
Exactly. It's not "can you stop?" It's "can we stop?"
Yeah.
It reinforces the temporary alliance between driver and passenger. It is cooperative language navigating a shared goal.
That is such a subtle but important detail. Okay, so we've navigated the pickup, we've set the logistics, we've negotiated the environment, and eventually the car pulls up to the destination.
The journey reaches its end.
Right, and this requires a sudden, jarring shift because you have to transition out of this cooperative, shared social space and snap back into a highly structured commercial transaction. Money has to change hands, which, frankly, always threatens to ruin the mood.
Yeah, the closure of this temporary social contract is notoriously tricky to navigate gracefully.
Because it reminds you that you were just paying them this whole time.
It highlights the artificiality of the interaction, yeah.
Yeah.
For 20 minutes, you were a guest and a conversational partner. But now, you are a customer settling a bill.
Let's look at how the source scripts this exit sequence. The driver announces the arrival by saying, "We're here." The passenger says, "Great, thank you." Then we pivot to the payment. The passenger asks, "How much is it?" The driver responds, "It's $15. And then, the critical moment, as the passenger hands over the cash, they say, "Here you go."
Such a crucial phrase.
It is. And I have studied languages where the textbook translation for this moment is incredibly stiff. You are taught to say something like, "I am handing you the funds," or "Please take this payment." It sounds like a hostage negotiation. Why is a phrase like "here you go" so vital to this interaction in English?
Because textbooks teach literal translation, whereas real life requires social function, here you go, is a fixed idiomatic expression. I mean, if you translate it literally, it makes absolutely no logical sense. No one is actually going anywhere.
Right, you're just sitting there.
Exactly. But practically, idioms act as social shock absorbers. They buffer the harshness of a direct transaction.
It takes the clinical edge off the moment, because handing over money in silence feels extremely cold, like an ATM dispensing cash.
The physical handover of money creates tension because it abruptly shatters the illusion of the temporary friendship you've built during the ride. So by using a casual, breezy idiom like, here you go, you soften that transition.
It acts as a social lubricant.
Exactly. It signals to the driver, hey, we're conducting business, but we are still friendly humans interacting with mutual respect. It makes the potentially awkward friction of a financial exchange feel casual and effortless.
And it sets up the final sign-off perfectly. The driver says, thank you, and they share a mutual, have a nice day, followed by, you too. It returns both individuals to their separate lives, formally dissolving the contract without any lingering awkwardness.
It really is a beautifully choreographed de-escalation of intimacy. You enter the vehicle as a vulnerable stranger, you establish a micro-community in the middle, and you exit with your agency and dignity intact, all facilitated by just a handful of simple phrases.
Bringing this all together, our source material completely reframes how we should approach language learning for travel. It dismantles the myth that you need a vast vocabulary to navigate the world safely.
You really don't.
You don't need to master the subjunctive mood to get to the airport. You need a digital handshake to confirm your identity, a multimodal tool to set your course, a softening agent to advocate for your comfort, and an idiom to lubricate the final transaction. It is about having the precise, functional tool for the specific psychological hurdle you are facing.
It shifts the focus from linguistic perfection to communicative competence. And it proves that simplicity, when deployed strategically, is the most powerful tool you have for reducing anxiety and reclaiming your agency in unfamiliar environments.
It really does strip away the fear, but, looking at the broader implications of this, seeing how perfectly scripted, predictable, and functional this entire taxi ride is, it leaves me with a lingering thought for you, the listener.
Well, what's that?
Well, we've spent this time analyzing how we use these survival phrases in foreign, high-stress environments, but it makes you wonder how much of our daily, routine life operates on the exact same principles.
That's a great point.
Right.
Yeah.
Even when we are back home, navigating our own neighborhoods in our native languages, how much of our communication is truly spontaneous? Or are we all just carrying around an internal phrase book for the coffee shop, the office elevator, and the grocery checkout, navigating our own liminal spaces, just waiting for our cue to smile and say, yes, that's me?